Ladies and gentlemen, let's face a hard truth today. 99% of men get two things completely wrong when it comes to what women really want. Surprised? You should be, because most of the time, men believe it's about doing more, performing harder, or proving themselves stronger. But here's the secret. It's not about force, it's about focus. So many men carry this belief that if they just get the moves right, they've done their job, they read an article, watch a video, hear some tips from a friend, and suddenly they think it's all about applying some step-by-step formula. But here's the shocking truth. You can do every technique perfectly and still leave her completely unsatisfied. Why? Because what most men fail to understand is this: connection always matters more than performance. Think about it for a second. You can master any physical skill, lifting weights, playing a sport, learning a dance move, but if your heart isn't in it, people feel it immediately. The same applies here. Women are not looking for a checklist of techniques, they're looking for presence. They're looking for sincerity. They're looking for a man who isn't just doing something to them, but one who is with them fully in that moment. Here's where the first mistake happens. Men confuse doing with being. They assume that as long as they're doing enough, trying hard enough, ticking off enough boxes, that's what women want. But women don't measure your value in the number of tricks you've memorized. They measure it in the depth of your presence. And presence is not about motion. It's about emotion. Ask yourself honestly, when you're with her, are you really there? Or are you in your head worrying about what comes next, how you're performing, whether she's impressed, whether you're good enough? Because the moment your mind leaves her, she feels it. Women are intuitive. They can sense disconnection faster than you can blink. You might think you're hiding your nervousness or your distraction, but they pick it up instantly, and it breaks the connection. Let me make it crystal clear. Connection is built in the invisible moments. It's in the way you look at her before you touch her. It's in the way you breathe with her instead of rushing. It's in the way you pause to sense her reactions, to listen with your eyes, to notice whether her body is opening or closing. That awareness, that subtle attention, is worth more than any move you could possibly learn. But 99% of men skip this step. Why? Because it requires patience, vulnerability, and courage to slow down. Most men are in such a hurry to get it right that they forget the only thing that makes it right is connection. Imagine two dancers. One doing all the right steps but never looking at his partner, never feeling the rhythm, never adjusting to her. Now imagine another who might not know all the advanced moves but flows with her, feels her, adapts, and makes her feel like she's the only person on that dance floor. Who do you think she's going to remember? This is exactly how women experience the difference between technique and connection. Technique without presence feels empty, mechanical, even selfish. Connection, on the other hand, even with simple gestures, feels magnetic, unforgettable, powerful. Here's the irony. When you focus on connection, your technique naturally improves. Why? Because you start listening with your whole body. You start paying attention to feedback, subtle signals, changes in breath, shifts in energy. You stop thinking about yourself and start focusing on her. That shift alone transforms average technique into extraordinary experience. Another mistake men make is believing connection is some soft concept with no real power. Wrong. Connection is the most powerful element in attraction, intimacy, and satisfaction. Think about it. People can forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. Isn't that true for you as well? When someone makes you feel seen, valued, and fully engaged, you carry that memory far longer than the memory of any single action. Let's break it down further. Presence beats perfection. Women don't want a flawless performance, they want a real partner. Listening beats guessing. Instead of assuming what she wants, tune into her and let her body guide you. Patience beats rushing. The slower you go, the more space you give for trust and anticipation to build. Attention beats repetition. Doing the same thing over and over without noticing her response isn't skill, it's neglect. So ask yourself again, are you focusing on technique or are you focusing on connection? Because if you're caught in the trap of chasing technique, you'll always stay in the 99% of men who never truly satisfy their partners. But if you make the bold decision to prioritize presence, empathy, and emotional awareness, you'll rise into the rare 1% who understand the real secret. Here's the beauty of it all. Connection doesn't cost money. It doesn't require complex knowledge. It doesn't demand years of practice. It simply requires a shift in mindset from, what can I do to impress her? To, How can I be with her in this moment fully? That shift changes everything. So the first mistake, confusing physical technique with true connection, isn't just a small error. It's the fundamental reason why so many men leave their partners feeling unseen, unheard, and untouched emotionally, even when they tried their best physically. The good news is this: once you understand the power of presence, you can transform every experience, every interaction, and every relationship. Now, tell me honestly, are you ready to stop doing and start connecting? Most men have been conditioned to believe that performance is everything. They think if they just do it right, if they go longer, faster, harder, they'll automatically win her heart and her satisfaction. But here's the truth: performance without listening is meaningless. Why? Because women don't just want the act, they want to be felt. They want to be understood, and they want to be seen. You can be the strongest man in the room, you can have all the moves memorized, but if you are not listening, deeply listening, to her words, her tone, her body language, her breath, then you're missing the entire point. Performance is about you. Listening is about her. And that is the difference that separates 99% of men from the 1% who truly understand women. Think about it. When was the last time you slowed down enough to actually hear what she wasn't saying out loud? Women communicate in layers. Sometimes it's in the silence. Sometimes it's in the pause. Sometimes it's in the shift of her body or the look in her eyes. But here's the problem: men are so focused on proving themselves through performance that they ignore these signs completely. And what does that tell her? It tells her that she's not being seen. It tells her that he's more focused on doing than on understanding. Let's get real. Being seen is the deepest human desire. Isn't it true for you too? Don't you want someone to recognize you, to acknowledge your effort, to value your uniqueness? Women are no different. When she feels invisible, when she feels unheard, when she feels like she's just another routine you're repeating, her connection to you begins to fade. And here's the irony: so many men believe that listening makes them less masculine. They think being quiet, paying attention, asking questions somehow makes them weaker. But do you know what really makes you powerful? The ability to silence your ego and focus fully on her. That kind of listening takes courage. That kind of presence takes strength, because it's not about dominating, it's about respecting. It's about creating a space where she feels safe enough to open herself completely. Presence is not just physical, it's emotional. Sitting in the same room doesn't mean you're present. Touching her doesn't mean you're present. Presence means when you're with her, nothing else exists. Not your phone. Not your thoughts, not your worries, not your checklist of moves, just her. Can you imagine the impact this has? For a woman to feel like, in that moment, she is the only person in your world. That's unforgettable. That's what she craves. Most men get it wrong because they confuse activity with intimacy. They think if they're doing enough, giving enough performance, that must equal satisfaction. But here's the truth: satisfaction comes from connection, and connection comes from listening. And listening is not passive. It's not just waiting for your turn to talk. It's leaning in. It's paying attention to the small things. It's adjusting, responding, and showing her through your actions that she matters. Ask yourself, when she speaks, do you truly hear her, or are you already planning your reply? When she moves, do you notice the shift in her rhythm, or are you too focused on your own performance? When she gives you subtle feedback, do you adapt, or do you just keep going the way you always do? These questions are not small. They define whether you're creating closeness or creating distance. Another powerful truth: listening builds trust, and without trust, performance is worthless. A woman can only let go, can only truly open herself when she feels safe. And safety doesn't come from strength alone, it comes from sensitivity. It comes from her knowing, he's paying attention, he sees me, he hears me, he cares about what I need. Isn't that what you would want if the roles were reversed? Performance might impress her in the moment, but presence keeps her coming back. Why? Because presence tells her this isn't just about you, it's about us. Performance alone fades quickly, but the memory of being truly seen lasts a lifetime. And here's something most men don't realize: when you listen and stay present, your performance automatically improves. Why? Because you're no longer guessing. You're not relying on a script. You're adjusting in real time to her signals, her desires, her needs. That's not weakness, that's mastery. That's what separates a man who just tries hard from the man who gets it right. Think about the greatest leaders, the best coaches, the most inspiring mentors. What makes them unforgettable isn't how loudly they talk, but how deeply they listen. They make people feel heard. They make people feel valued. And because of that, people follow them, trust them, and open up to them. The same principle applies here, so let's get brutally honest. If you're only focused on performing, you'll keep ending up in the 99% who leave women feeling unseen. But if you choose to prioritize listening and presence, you'll step into the 1% who understand the real secret. Women don't just want to be touched, they want to be felt. They want to be understood. They want to be seen. And isn't that what real connection is all about? Confidence? Every man hears this word and thinks he knows what it means. But do you really? Because here's where most men go wrong. They confuse confidence with arrogance, or they confuse humility with insecurity. And the truth is, women can spot the difference instantly. You might think you're coming across as strong and impressive, but if it's arrogance, it repels her. And if it's insecurity, it pushes her away. So why do men struggle with this balance so much? It's because society sells two opposite images of masculinity. On one hand, we're told, be dominant, take control. On the other hand, we hear, be humble, be quiet, don't make mistakes. And most men swing like a pendulum. Either they puff up their chest, talk too much, and try to prove their worth, or they shrink, doubt themselves, and disappear into the background. Neither extreme works. Let's get one thing clear. Confidence is not about being louder, bigger, or tougher. Confidence is about being secure in who you are. It's about walking into a room and not needing to prove anything to anyone. Women notice this immediately. They can tell if your confidence is real or if it's just a mask hiding insecurity. Arrogance says, I'm better than you. Confidence says, I believe in myself and I respect you too. Do you feel the difference? Arrogance drains energy. Confidence creates safety. Arrogance forces attention. Confidence naturally attracts it. Arrogance demands respect. Confidence earns it. Which one do you think women are drawn to? Here's the mistake. 99% of men think confidence is about acting, pretending, or performing. But real confidence is quiet. It's steady. It's the calm in the storm, not the loudest voice in the room. A man who is truly confident doesn't need to tell everyone he's confident. He doesn't need to overcompensate with money, status, or possessions. He simply is. Now, let's talk about why arrogance fails every time. When you come across as arrogant, bragging, dismissing others, ignoring her voice, what does that communicate? It tells her you're insecure. Yes, that's the truth. Arrogance is just insecurity in disguise. It screams, I need to prove myself because deep down, I don't feel enough. Women pick up on that instantly. And do you know what happens when she senses arrogance? Her guard goes up. She doesn't feel safe. She doesn't feel respected. And when a woman doesn't feel safe, connection dies. But on the other side, insecurity isn't the answer either. Too many men think being overly humble, agreeable, or self-deprecating will win her over. They think, if I don't upset her, if I play it safe, if I just give in, she'll like me more. Wrong! Women don't want a man who hides his strength, who constantly seeks validation, or who can't take a stand. That doesn't create attraction, it creates imbalance. So where's the sweet spot? It's in confidence without arrogance. This is the balance that only a small percentage of men master. It's the ability to own your strengths without putting others down. It's being decisive without being controlling. It's being humble enough to listen but strong enough to lead. That combination is magnetic. Let's make it practical. Imagine two scenarios. In the first, a man walks into a room and announces how amazing he is, how successful he's become, and why everyone should listen to him. People nod politely, but inside, they're rolling their eyes. He thinks he's winning respect, but in reality, he's losing it. In the second, another man walks in. He doesn't boast. He doesn't need to. He listens, engages, and when he speaks with clarity and conviction. People naturally lean in. They respect him without him demanding it. Now ask yourself, which man do you think women are going to feel more attracted to? This applies in relationships too. When you're with a woman, arrogance shows up as interrupting her, dismissing her feelings, or acting like you already know it all. Confidence shows up as listening deeply, valuing her input, and being secure enough to admit when you don't know something. Which one builds trust? Which one creates intimacy? And let's not forget, confidence is not just about how you treat her, it's also about how you treat yourself. Do you take care of your health? Do you keep your word to yourself? Do you pursue goals with discipline? Because true confidence comes from within. It's not about faking it until you make it. It's about becoming the kind of man who doesn't need to fake anything. Women want to feel safe, seen, and respected. And do you know what creates that? A man who believes in himself but doesn't need to belittle others. A man who can lead with strength but also listen with humility. That balance. Confidence without arrogance is rare, but when you embody it, it changes everything. So the real question is this: are you swinging between arrogance and insecurity, or are you standing firm in true confidence? Because once you find that balance, you won't just impress women, you'll inspire trust, respect, and admiration everywhere you go. Men often underestimate this truth. Emotional safety is more powerful than looks, money, or even physical performance. Why? Because without it, nothing else matters. A woman might admire your style, enjoy your humor, or even be impressed by your confidence, but if she doesn't feel safe with you, deeply, emotionally safe, she will never fully open herself. Let's be honest. What does emotional safety even mean? It means she can trust you. It means she knows you won't judge her when she's vulnerable. It means she feels secure enough to express her desires, her fears, her insecurities without worrying you'll use them against her. That's the foundation of real attraction. Without it, you're just building on sand. Here's where men go wrong. They focus so much on external moves, on what to say, what to do, how to perform, that they forget the foundation is missing. Imagine building a beautiful house with no foundation. No matter how impressive it looks, the first storm will bring it crashing down. That's exactly what happens when you ignore emotional safety. Now, you might be wondering, how does a woman actually know if she's emotionally safe with you? The answer is simple but powerful. She pays attention to your reactions. When she shares something personal, do you dismiss it, make a joke, or change the subject? Or do you listen, validate, and make her feel understood? When she makes a mistake, do you criticize her or do you reassure her? Every reaction you give is either building safety or breaking it down. And here's the secret most men miss. Emotional safety is the gateway to physical intimacy. You can't rush it. You can't fake it. Women open up physically only when they feel safe emotionally. If she senses even a hint of judgment, if she feels like she can't trust you, if she thinks you'll mock her or expose her, she will shut down. It doesn't matter how attractive you are, how much effort you put in, or how perfect your moves seem. Without safety, there is no real connection. Think about it in your own life. Don't you perform better, open up more, and give your best when you feel safe? Imagine a coach who constantly criticizes you, mocks you, and never acknowledges your effort. Would you give your best to him? Now imagine a coach who believes in you, encourages you, and makes you feel capable. Wouldn't you give him everything you've got? That's the power of safety. It brings out the best in people. Women crave this even more deeply because society constantly judges them. Their looks, their choices, their emotions, everything is under a microscope. So when they find a man who makes them feel safe, that man stands out like no one else. He becomes unforgettable. But here's the problem, 99% of men don't understand this. They think attraction is about dominance, about control, about taking charge. They believe safety is weakness. But do you know what's truly powerful? Being the man she can trust with her deepest fears. Being the man she can cry in front of without feeling ashamed. Being the man who makes her feel braver, freer, more alive simply because she knows she's safe with you. That's not weakness, that's mastery. Let's get practical. How do you create emotional safety? Listen without judgment. When she shares something, don't interrupt, don't minimize, don't mock. Just listen. Sometimes silence speaks louder than words. Validate her feelings. Even if you don't agree, acknowledge that what she feels is real to her. Saying, "I hear you, that must be tough," is more powerful than trying to fix everything. Be consistent. Safety isn't built in one moment, it's built over time. If you're calm today but explosive tomorrow, she won't feel safe. Consistency builds trust. Protect her vulnerability. If she opens up to you, never use it against her. Never share it with others. That betrayal destroys safety instantly. Lead with calm strength. Safety doesn't mean being passive. It means being steady, reliable, and grounded, so she knows she can lean on you when life shakes her. And here's the irony. When you create emotional safety, you unlock her true self. She laughs louder, she loves deeper, she expresses more freely. You'll see sides of her that no one else sees. And guess what? That's when attraction explodes. That's when connection becomes unbreakable. So many men wonder, why does she seem distant? Why isn't she opening up? Why doesn't she trust me yet? And the answer is simple. You haven't built emotional safety. You've been too focused on impressing, performing, or proving yourself, and not focused enough on creating trust. Once you shift that focus, everything changes. Emotional safety is not optional. It's not a bonus. It's the foundation. Without it, all your moves, all your charm, all your confidence, it all collapses. But with it, even the simplest gestures become powerful. Even the smallest acts become meaningful. Because she's not just experiencing you, she's experiencing freedom in your presence. So ask yourself honestly, does she feel safe with me? Because if the answer is no, nothing else you do will ever truly work. But if the answer is yes, then you've unlocked the deepest, most powerful form of attraction there is. Why is it that when men hear the word communication, so many roll their eyes? Why do they instantly think it's unnecessary, boring, or even weak? The truth is shocking. Communication is the single most underrated skill in attraction, connection, and long-lasting intimacy, and yet 99% of men avoid it, hide from it, or simply refuse to practice it. Here's the mistake: most men believe silence equals strength. They think if they keep everything bottled up, if they don't ask questions, if they don't express feelings, it somehow makes them more masculine. But ask yourself honestly, does hiding your thoughts, ignoring her words, and refusing to talk make you strong, or does it just make you disconnected? Let's flip the perspective. What do women really want? They want clarity. They want honesty. They want reassurance. They don't want to play guessing games, wondering what you're thinking, whether you care, or where you stand. They want a man who can open his mouth and speak his truth without fear. They want a man who can ask questions without shame. They want a man who can express emotions without feeling like less of a man. That's not weakness, that's courage. Think about it. When two people don't communicate, what happens? Misunderstandings, assumptions, conflict, distance. And what happens when communication flows openly? Trust builds, connection deepens, problems shrink instead of growing. Isn't that exactly what every man actually wants in a relationship? So why avoid the very thing that guarantees it? Let's get practical. A woman doesn't just want you to perform. She wants you to talk to her. She wants you to ask, "Do you like this?" She wants you to listen when she gives feedback instead of pretending you already know it all. She wants you to check in, to understand, to adapt. And do you know what happens when you do this? She feels seen. She feels valued. She feels safe. That's the magic formula. But here's the harsh truth. 99% of men never do this. They think asking makes them look inexperienced. They think communicating kills the mystery. They think silence is sexier. Wrong. Silence creates doubt, not desire. Communication builds confidence, not weakness. And here's the real secret. Communication creates anticipation. The words you use before anything even begins matter just as much as what happens later. When you communicate with honesty and excitement, you're not just filling silence, you're creating connection. You're making her feel chosen, desired, respected. Isn't that what she truly craves? Another powerful truth. Communication prevents failure before it happens. Imagine this: you're trying hard, but she's not responding the way you expect. If you're silent, you'll keep guessing, keep repeating mistakes, and both of you end up frustrated. But if you ask, "What do you like? Do you want me to slow down? Do you want something different?" you instantly unlock the answer. No more guessing, no more confusion, just clarity. Why would any man throw away such an advantage? The problem is ego. Most men would rather risk failure than ask questions. They'd rather assume than admit they don't know everything. But what they don't realize is that asking doesn't make you smaller. It makes you smarter. It doesn't make you weaker. It makes you stronger. Because you're not just focused on yourself. You're invested in her experience. That's what women remember. That's what separates the average from the unforgettable. Let's talk about the emotional side. Communication isn't only about the physical, it's about feelings too. Women want to know what's going on in your head and heart. They want you to share your thoughts, your dreams, even your fears. Why? Because vulnerability builds trust. When you open up, she feels safe to open up too. And when two people drop the masks and truly communicate, that's where intimacy becomes unbreakable. Don't confuse vulnerability with weakness. Weakness is hiding. Weakness is pretending you're fine when you're not. Weakness is silence when the truth could set you free. Vulnerability is saying, "This is who I am, and I trust you enough to share it." That's strength. That's leadership. That's what women respect. Let's break it down into simple truths. Communication beats guessing. She doesn't want you to assume. She wants you to ask, Communication builds confidence. The more you talk openly, the more secure she feels. Communication deepens trust. The moment you share honestly, walls come down. Communication guides performance. You'll never need to figure her out when you can just ask. Now think about this carefully. What's more impressive to a woman? A man who stubbornly pretends to know it all, or a man who cares enough to ask, listen, and adapt? The answer is obvious. The second man creates connection. The second man builds safety. The second man wins her trust. And here's the final irony. When you master communication, you no longer need to worry about performance, because she will literally guide you to what works for her. She will open up, share more, and invite you into her world. Why? Because you've proven you're not just there for yourself, you're there for both of you. So let's face it, communication is not boring, it's not weak, and it's not optional. It's the most powerful secret weapon a man can ever use. Without it, you're stuck in the 99% who fail silently. With it, you rise into the 1% who create connections so strong women can't forget them. And isn't that the goal every man secretly wants? Men often search endlessly for secrets, techniques, and shortcuts, believing the key to a woman's heart lies in something complicated, hidden, or rare. But here's the reality. The real transformation comes from mastering just two things: attention and empathy. That's it. Two simple shifts that change everything. Yet, most men overlook them because they sound too basic. But what's basic is often what's most powerful. Let's start with attention. What does attention really mean? It means being fully present in the moment with her. It means noticing the details, the way her tone changes, the way her eyes light up when she's excited, the way her body language shifts when she's uncomfortable. Attention is not just about seeing her. It's about reading her, tuning into the signals she's giving you all the time. Most men think they're paying attention, but are they really? Or are they half distracted? Scrolling through their phone, thinking about work, worrying about performance, or lost in their own thoughts. Here's the truth: a woman knows instantly when you're not fully there. She can feel when your mind drifts. And do you know what that tells her? It tells her she's not your priority. It tells her she's not being valued. And nothing destroys connection faster than a lack of attention. Now flip it. What happens when you give her your full attention? She feels special. She feels chosen. She feels like the only person in your world at that moment. And isn't that exactly what women truly crave? To be seen, to be heard, to be prioritized above the noise of everything else. Attention is not about grand gestures. It's about small consistencies. It's the way you look into her eyes when she talks. It's the way you put the phone away when she's sharing. It's the way you remember the little details she thought you'd forget. Those small acts of attention build a massive impact over time. Now let's talk about the second shift: empathy. What is empathy really? It's the ability to step into her shoes, to feel what she feels, to understand her perspective, even if it's different from yours. Most men confuse empathy with agreement. They think if they don't agree, they can't be empathetic. Wrong. Empathy is not about agreeing. It's about understanding. It's about saying, I might not see it the same way, but I can feel how this affects you. That kind of empathy creates trust instantly. Why is empathy so powerful? Because it makes her feel safe. It tells her you're not just hearing her words, you're connecting with her emotions. And here's the truth: women connect through emotions far more than through logic. If you only argue with logic, she feels unseen. But when you show empathy, she feels understood. And being understood is one of the deepest desires of the human heart. Now here's the magic. Attention and empathy work together. Attention allows you to notice what she's feeling. Empathy allows you to respond in a way that honors those feelings. Without attention, you miss the signs. Without empathy, you misinterpret them. But when you master both, you create an unbreakable bond. Let me give you an example. Imagine she comes home after a stressful day. She seems quiet, distant, withdrawn. A man who lacks attention won't even notice. He'll stay focused on his own world. A man who notices but lacks empathy will say, "What's wrong with you? Why are you always in a bad mood?" But a man who has both attention and empathy will notice the shift and say, "You seem a little off today. Want to talk about it? I'm here for you." Do you feel the difference? The first two responses push her away. The last one pulls her closer. Attention and empathy don't just transform relationships, they transform attraction. Why? Because when a woman feels seen and understood, her guard drops, she relaxes, she trusts you, and trust is the foundation of desire. Without it, she'll always hold back. With it, she'll open herself fully, emotionally, mentally, and yes, physically. Here's another truth. Attention and empathy cost nothing but mean everything. You don't need money, status, or looks to master them. You just need the willingness to be present and the humility to care. Yet 99% of men ignore them, chasing techniques and shortcuts instead. That's why most fail, because they're focusing on the surface while ignoring the core. Think about the people you admire most in your life. Are they the ones who performed perfectly, or the ones who made you feel truly understood? Who do you remember more, the person who impressed you with flashy skills, or the one who gave you their full attention and empathy when you needed it most? Women remember the same. Let's break it into practical habits. When she talks, stop and listen fully. No distractions, no rushing. No planning your reply, just listen. Notice the unspoken. Pay attention to body language, tone, and silence. Sometimes that says more than words. Reflect her feelings. Use empathy to show you understand. Say things like, "That sounds tough," or "I can see why that upset you." Be curious, not critical. Instead of judging her emotions, ask questions to understand them. Match consistency with care. Show her through repeated actions that she's not just noticed once, but always valued. Now imagine the transformation. A man who masters attention and empathy no longer needs to guess what women want, because women show him. They open up, they trust, they share, they guide. He doesn't chase connection. It comes to him naturally, because he's mastered the two things women crave most: to be seen and to be understood. So ask yourself honestly, are you giving her attention, or are you distracted? Are you practicing empathy, or are you stuck in your own perspective? Because when you commit to these two shifts, you stop being like 99% of men, and you become the rare 1% who truly understands what women deeply desire.